Once upon a time, there was a girl who haunted her sister. No, that's too abstract. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who got kidnapped and murdered. Okay, that might hit too hard. Once upon a time, there was an adopted girl whose sister was famous. But then, a man in his 60s came and kidnapped her. The sister. I mean, not the girl. But, yeah. Okay. That's confusing. How about this? Have you heard this one? Once upon a time, there was a young woman whose parents died in a car crash and left her a boatload of questions and a house with a ton of problems. Or maybe this one. Once upon a time, there was this drunk chick scrolling through her dead dad's files and found a picture of him standing with a young woman who looked a lot like her dead sister. I feel like that one captures it all, right? Me, drunk, depressed, dead dad, dead sister, strange woman. The only person I don't really capture in that one is Mom. How about this? Stop me if you've heard this one. Once upon a time, there was this drunk chick searching through her dead dad's computer files. She found a picture of him in front of a barbecue joint with a young woman who looked a lot like a grown-up version of the drunk chick's dead sister. Oh, and the drunk chick's mom? She was dead too. Yeah. Perfect. Welcome to my podcast. This is Wrought of Amber, a podcast about the horror of loss. I'm Alex Carmichael. I'm not drunk, by the way. I mean, I was drunk. A lot, actually. Just after my parents died earlier this year. And I was definitely drunk the day that I found that picture of my dad with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, freckle-faced chick who honestly scared the shit out of me because she looked just like my dead sister, Emily. Spoiler, it wasn't Emily. I'm like 99% sure about that. So that day in early September of 2023, I was wandering around in my standard uniform for depressed day drinking in my family's posh, yet somehow always in need of repairs, secluded cabin-style house. A stained t-shirt and not exactly my fanciest pair of underwear. So picture me, if you will, but not in too much detail, thanks. Wandering around this house that was built for some writer back in the 70s with like wood everything and way more rooms than we ever used. Picture me with a big plastic tumbler, shuffling around barefoot in an old band t-shirt, peering into rooms, wandering into some of them, and only glancing into others. Picture it because it's comical or depressing. Or if you're into unwashed women who are thinking of wandering off to inspect the bottom of the nearest lake for the next 60 or 70 years, picture it because it's super hot. And picture me dropping the cup, A big, rubbery, plastic, adult-sized version of the cups your mom used to serve you Kool-Aid in as a kid, and splashing a sticky, freezing, fruity mess all over my legs, the floor, and the wall, when I heard a voice coming out of my dad's office. And here's another spoiler. I don't know what that voice was. I never figured it out, so don't hold your breath on that one. But yeah, there it was. A voice from my dad's office. It was a guy's voice. Older, kind of growly, and cheerful. He said my dad's name, like he was calling for him. And I froze. Because how do you not freeze in that moment? I froze and I thought about running, which I realize is a crazy idea if you're seriously considering punching your own ticket for the train to good old Ghostville, USA. But something basic in me decided that I probably didn't actually want to die right then, so I thought about running. But then something else, something maybe more basic or stronger or whatever, took over. And I got angry. Like if there was someone in the house, I wanted to confront them and hit them and beat them to a pulp for everything I'd lost. Yeah, I realize that's stupid, but I was pretty stupid just about then. So I stormed into my dad's office, and for just a second, I thought I saw someone standing in the corner, in the deep shadows of the recessed bookshelves that stand behind his desk. And for that second, as I stared into what I thought was a pale face, I pictured myself being beaten with a branch, chopped up, and cremated in the backwoods where people would find me just a few days later. Or maybe in my case, not for a long time. Our house is, as I mentioned, pretty secluded. And even though the image of the man in the shadows was my imagination, he, of course, disappeared the moment I turned the light on, that little rendition of a horrible death wasn't. That wonderful flight of fancy was memory. Or repetition. Because I was imagining that I might die the same way that my sister Emily did. I want you to cast your mind back to 2009, if you can. Were you conscious and aware of the world around you? I wasn't. I was 7. I was conscious of my friends, my parents, TV, and the prettiest girl on TV, my sister, Emily, who was a princess. Maybe you were watching Virtue Vista Valley back then. If so, you were probably a kid my age or younger, or a parent of a kid like me, or one of those valley bros who watch it as an adult for whatever reason. But at that precise moment, you might have been watching for another reason too. You might have been watching because all over the news, you were hearing about the 12-year-old girl who had gone missing on September 19th. Emily Carmichael, the 10th girl to play Princess Emerald on Virtue Vista Valley, had been kidnapped from her tutor's house in Glory Home, Missouri. If you were watching for that reason, then maybe you remember what happened. But if not, I'll remind you. It's been long enough that everyone could use a little refresher. Emily Carmichael left her house in Glory Home, Missouri around 1:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday. She had a month off from Virtue Vista Valley, and she was catching up on tutoring. Her history and English tutor, Mrs. Yvonne Cooper, lived a couple of blocks away, and Emily was supposed to walk there and back when she was done. She was there until at least 3:45 in the afternoon. Mrs. Cooper was found dead from a heart attack in her home around 5 p.m. There was no sign of Emily. My sister remained officially missing for a little over a month while police waited for DNA tests to come back. What DNA, you might ask? Oh, just the DNA they found next to a pit in the backyard of a 65-year-old man named Wesley Graveline. A pit filled with the charred and broken bones of a girl around the age of 11 or 12 years old. It was 3 stray teeth and some blood on a rag that changed Emily's status from missing girl to dead girl. And for the month it took to get the results back, the world waited to know if Wesley Graveline, a writer for Crystalline Mansion, had killed a girl who he had known since she was born. Or if it had all just been a hilarious coincidence and he'd really offed some random girl like Rebecca Moyer or Cynthia Dobbs, who had gone missing a month earlier. What a comedy of errors that would have been. Turns out, though, Graveline wasn't just your regular workaday psychopath, and he quickly became the princess killer to all of the tabloids and the shitty attention-seeking journalists. Which, whatever, it's catchy, right? And for a lot of kids at the time, she really was a princess. Princess Emerald, one of the 2 stars of Virtue Vista Valley, a show full of costumed characters, puppets, and sometimes cartoons. A show where an old man teaches everyone about the glorious difference between right and wrong. The news went wild. Graveline was crazy, and I was 7 years old. My parents, they lost their minds with grief, which, any parent would. But they also had to endure a seemingly endless string of crazy people sending them emails and physical letters and calling them, all because some agent in the FBI decided to make some extra money by leaking almost everything about the case. Her rationale? She knew the dead kid was my sister. She knew they had the right guy, so why not pay her bills in the meantime? Yeah, I think she's working as a waitress now. Anyway, back then, everything was fucked and crazy and monstrous, and nothing would ever be the same again. But we found a way back to, something close to normal. It took years, of course, and ongoing therapy, and a lot of big mistakes on everyone's parts. I know... God, should I say this? I know that both of my parents had affairs afterward. I was, let's call it advanced for my age in high school, and not only in the academic way. Though in the academic way too. And yes, I kind of turned into that chick with all the tattoos and whatever, it's another kind of therapy, I guess. Life is never entirely normal after your sister becomes an international superstar and then is chopped into little bits, We all have our trauma, I guess. But I guess that's to say that by the year of our Lord 2023, we had figured some things out as a family. I graduated early with my degree in writing in May, and my parents had sort of worked out some kind of, modern interpretation of marriage that they could live with. And we weren't a 1950s family, but we were the kind of left of center interpretation of it. Weird, open relationship parents, adopted Korean college graduate daughter, and enough baggage to fill the storage area on the Titanic. And then, on the weekend of the 4th of July, my parents were coming back down from New England. And so was this truck driver who decided that changing lanes without looking at his mirrors was more important than everything my parents were. And then they weren't anymore. And when they weren't anymore, I was me. Just me. Without anything or anyone. The house, the one remaining car, and kind of a lot of money from life insurance and savings and a trust that had been set up for me when Emily died. And my parents' liquor cabinet, which had also been set up after Emily died. And with a big, creaky house, lots of liquor, money, and self-destructive depression, I came stumbling into my dad's office to see something out of a cartoon nightmare fading into the shadows behind his desk. But I found something else as well. His personal computer. Unlocked. Totally accessible. I mean, I had been in the office before. I had been in every room and had done at least a surface-level inspection of my new domain. I had grown up there since 2010 when we moved away from Missouri. I know every room. But this place was like an alien planet to me without them, so... And of course, there are rooms I didn't do, like a deep search in, like their bedrooms. Yeah, they had separate ones for years. After the affairs, I think. Actually, a couple of years after that, I'm pretty sure. But it was for almost 10 years, I guess. My dad's office was a place I had tried to explore, and he has a ton of books in there. Had because he's gone, but has because they're still there? Is there even a right answer to that? Anyway, there's a lot of books in there, and I found myself leafing through them. But I really wanted to get into his computer. His personal computer, anyway. His work computer is... well, it's his work computer. And while there's probably some really interesting stuff on there, given the kind of work he did, I was more interested in his personal files, like emails between him and Mom, maybe even some pictures of Emily and us back in the day. I think I wanted to feel close to him, you know? We had been close for a long time. It wasn't until I came home from college in May that things got awkward. He would look at me strangely, and one time he got really 1950s on me and knocked on my door and asked me if I was decent. And then when I opened the door, he was more awkward than ever. So yeah, I think I just wanted to get a little of the old feeling back. But I couldn't get in. He didn't just use someone's name for his password, he was smarter than that. He was an IT director, after all. And not just any IT director. the IT director for the kindest company on earth, Crystalline Mansion. Because, yeah, working for Crystalline Mansion was kind of a family business, something all of us did at some point. My mom wrote for them, my dad worked IT there, and they both started in the 90s. And I interned there one summer during college. So my dad, being an IT director for a multi-billion-dollar company, was really careful about his passwords. And even though I tried all the tricks he taught me, I couldn't get into either computer. But that day, back in September, I could, because it was unlocked. And, that's really odd. About as odd as seeing a white face disappearing into the shadows. But, yeah, that's not something I can explain either. What I can say is what I found when I plopped my bare ass down on the old, uncomfortable, cracked fake leather of my dad's office chair. First, I guess, was that pants might be a good idea. And second, a folder on his desktop called Emily. And of course I opened that one first. I figured I'd find some pictures and maybe a video or two, or maybe some scans of magazines or newspaper stuff. Maybe even a journal or a blog or something. But instead, I found hundreds of files. Videos, audio clips, emails, half-written documents, rambling notes, chat transcripts, and then the pictures and paper clippings and magazine articles that I had been expecting. There were 2 top-level folders under Emily. In the one named Everything are a bunch more folders, but also just a mess of loose documents. There's everything from a short email from someone named Jason that just says, "We're in pursuit. Erica will be in touch soon," to a letter from a doctor named Glassman apologizing to my dad for failing him, to a letter from the author Glenn Mote saying how sorry he was to my dad and how he wished he could have walked back with him on the day of my sister's disappearance, to a bunch of notes my dad wrote to himself in the years after Emily's death. Those notes are kind of disturbing, honestly. I mean, they're just so all over the place. If I find a place to talk about them, I will, but I don't know if it will be helpful to anyone for me to do that. There are scans of the letters, too. The ones that were sent to us while we were waiting for the FBI to find Emily or to tell us that the girl in the pit was her. There is, of course, the Wrought of Amber letter, the one that this podcast is named after. And there are the Harhain letters, which I was surprised at, honestly. There are videos of coffee shops, of traffic intersections, and of empty fields and sections of desert. There are photos of snowy paths and forest paths and several of little houses that look like they need a new coat of paint. And all of these are strange and confusing. And honestly, as I went through them, they kind of scared me. Because I didn't know what they all implied. Now, while there is just a messy pile of files scattered in the Everything folder, there does seem to be some sort of order to it all. Within Everything are other folders like Police and Cornerstone and Reflections. These respectively have police records, text files that seem to be from an old message board system, and what looks like some disjointed notes my dad wrote in the years following Emily's death. The other top-level folder, however, the one that sits next to everything, is called Grace. And when I opened the folder, I immediately saw the preview of a picture of my dad with a girl who looked shockingly like Emily, especially in that little miniature preview image. And when I opened it, well, it still took me a second to realize that it wasn't her. For about 10 heartbeats, I don't know. I thought maybe that my sister was really alive. Yeah, I don't really have a way of saying what that was like. For like a second, my brain asked, did he find her? Was she really alive this whole time? Because yeah, this chick looks that much like my sister if you add 10 years. And then I wondered, oh my God, did my dad have another daughter? Like, is this his love child from some other woman? And I guess I can't say that that's not true. But I've read through their emails and listened to voicemails, and nowhere does she call him dad or suggest anything like that. Thankfully, she doesn't call him any form of dad, even with a Y at the end, which, look, I already have a hard time keeping my lunch down thinking about why he ended up in a 2-year-long relationship with this girl who looked like his dead daughter. But if it was that, because I'm not entirely convinced it wasn't that, but if I had to read about that, yeah, I might have just gone wandering off into the woods and just not come back. So yeah, probably not my missing sister, who was really alive this whole time, and probably not Emily's missing sister, who was, I guess, alive this whole time either. So, who was the strange adult Emily lookalike? Well, my first assumption was that her name was Grace, which it turns out it was, so I get my first gold star in the amateur detective column. I'm hoping for a few more of those, but we'll see. So good. I had a name. But who was Grace, and why did she have her own folder inside of my sister's folder? That part is kind of hard to explain, and it has to do with a made-up word and some letters my parents got, and I'll go into that part of things in episode 3. But suffice it to say that Grace was a believer in a conspiracy theory that grew up because of that greedy FBI agent and a disturbed man who was living in West Virginia. She convinced my dad, and, I don't know, maybe he didn't need a lot of convincing, that my sister's case wasn't really solved, that there was more to do, more to learn. And I'll say this right now. There's a lot to go over about what happened to my sister. A lot that never saw the light of day. And, as far as that goes, Grace was right. But as far as the particulars go, I think she was crazy. But she raised one really good point. No one ever really got to know what happened with my sister. They didn't get to know because the man who kidnapped and killed her, He pled guilty, knowing that the prosecution was seeking the death penalty for the murder of a 12-year-old girl who he had known her whole life and who had worked with her and her family and had been put in charge of her on multiple occasions. He agreed to die for his crimes. And so the public never got to know what the state knew, what evidence the police had gathered, or what defense his lawyers might have made. And so the last thing that people knew about my sister was that her killer pled guilty and was sentenced to death. Or maybe the second to last thing for some people, because 18 months later, after his plea, Wesley Graveline died by lethal injection. And the headlines read, "Princess Killer Executed," and "Princess Receives Justice." But, what if she didn't receive justice? Look, I'm leaving aside the whole messed up question about whether a dead person can receive justice at all, or if killing someone can actually deliver that justice to them. But let's assume they can. Let's assume that my sister somehow still exists. A soul, a spirit, a mind, somewhere surrounded by angels and all that. And let's say that when Graveline was executed, something was put right in the world. I'm not entirely convinced about that, but okay, let's just say that's how it was. I still think, based on what I've scraped from the piles of garbage that Grace shoveled in my dad's direction, that the full measure of justice wasn't doled out. Because I think there's still someone out there, or at least there was someone out there, who helped Graveline do what he did. I think that there was a second person involved in my sister's death, and I'm going to try to prove it. And honestly, I want to take this opportunity to put to rest the whole obsession with the urban legends that have grown up around that weekend, if that's even possible. Now, to do that, I have to use some of what Grace and my dad worked on together. And whatever, I'll swallow my disgust for their whole situation. And in the interest of being fair, I suppose I should say that among the many files are some audio recordings of voicemails she left him. And since I have to bring her up and look at what she was doing, then I suppose it's only fair to include her story and maybe let her speak for herself sometimes. I'm trying. I'm trying to be as fair as I can be. So, I'm going to play this message from her. I'm not sure when it's from because, and I guess I'll talk about this at some point, but the files in the folder, they are not dated properly. They are all over the place. I don't know what order a lot of the images, audio, and things are supposed to be in, so. Some of them are right, but some of them are completely crazy. The picture from the barbecued place, for example, is dated 2005, which I know isn't true since my dad has his mustache in the picture, and he was not rocking a mustache in 2005. And there's this picture of a little stone that they found in Emily's bedroom, dated 1998. And this voicemail that I'm about to play for you, it's supposedly from 1985. And before people go crazy with the whole idea of time travel or whatever, my dad was good at hiding things, like messing information up. And this is pretty basic stuff. Changing file dates is kind of nothing, like a child's maze. It's a first level, at a glance kind of defense for some reason. I don't know why. There are also a bunch of either encrypted or corrupted files mixed in. I'm not sure why some are that way and others are perfectly fine. And before you ask, I do think they are corrupted or encrypted because there are a couple that have little glimpses of whatever is hidden in them or what was there before they were messed up. Like there's a short text file that just says, "Just so you know," and then some garbled text. Then Mallory, garbled, Northfield, garbled, '01. And one that says, "She'll never," some junk, thinking. And yes, I did look up Mallory and Northfield. The closest I got was a bunch of people with similar names and Mallory Brook near Northfield, Massachusetts. And the only thing I could find there in 2001 was a plan for the town's open spaces or something. So yeah, things are pretty messed up with the files. That being said, this voicemail was not recorded in 1985, I promise. So, here's Grace, the third star of our show, I guess, after Emily and yours truly.
Hey Daniel, I'm on the road again. I'm about to cross over into South Dakota, and wow, yeah, it is flat out here. Like, just open and flat. And like, I can't wait to see the Black Hills, but here it's kind of like I can see forever. There's nothing in my way, nothing to stop me from seeing all the way to where the sky touches the earth. And that's how I feel. I feel like I know where I'm going, and I feel like I know what I'm gonna find when I get there. So I thought I'd leave you this message to say thanks and to share this moment with you. If it wasn't for your help, I would just be staring at a piece of paper wondering if I'm going crazy. But I know I'm not, and that's thanks to you. So I wish you could see this, but since you can't and you're stuck behind a computer, here's me wishing you were here to share it with me. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough for a first episode. But if you're sitting there wondering what this is all about, I guess, I don't know. I guess I need to do this because I I never got closure like everyone else did. I was just too young. And like maybe that's crazy and sappy and whatever, but I never really got to say goodbye. I feel like a lot of people got it when Graveline died, or when he went to jail, or even when they watched her last episode, which, like, the timing was crazy, and people still mention it on the message boards sometimes, but she went on vacation a week before she was killed. The show kept filming, but because of her age, she needed some time off for school and some sense of normalcy for a month. So they filmed The Princess is Going Away episode. That aired 6 weeks after she disappeared, and 2 weeks or so after she was confirmed dead. This coincidence meant that most people who watched Virtue Vista Valley got this strange goodbye from her. A goodbye that I never got. Because, yeah, I wasn't watching the show right then. For obvious reasons. I'm going to play that ending for you, actually. I I want you to hear her voice as she was, because later I have to play something different, and I don't want that to be the only thing you hear from her. So, yeah. And I guess it's right that the first episode should end with her. By the way, you might wonder why the audio is so bad on this clip. I had to get this from a torrent of a really low-quality copy of the episode. This episode, not really surprisingly, isn't in the public Virtue Vista Valley archives. So, here it is. My sister's goodbye. And when I come back next week, I'm going to start to try to lay out why she was forced to say goodbye. Not just to her show, but to her friends, to her family, and to everything.
Hello there. Who are you?
Good morning, Your Highness. I'm Stindl, the conductor. This is my engine, Marcella.
Oh, hello, Marcella.
Hello.
You have quite a few bags, Your Highness. Let me get those on board for you. Are you traveling far?
Yes, quite far, and I'll be gone for a good long while, but I'll be back.
A vacation, then?
Yes, a long vacation, but it won't be all rest and relaxation. There's work to be done, Mr. Stindl.
A working vacation. The very best kind. I love a working vacation. For how long will you be gone from the valley?
I don't know, really, but it could be quite a long time. So, well, do you mind if I have one last look?
Of course, take as long as you like. The other passengers won't mind. They've been cooped up since the port and could use a stretch of the old legs.
Thank you. Goodbye, Valley. Goodbye, Main Street. Goodbye, Winding River. Goodbye, Tower, and goodbye, Mother. I'll see you all again soon. And the fondest of farewells to you, Sam. And to all of you out there, wherever you are, goodbye. Until we meet again.
Well, then, that wasn't long at all. May you return as swiftly as we take you away.
Thank you.
Now, all aboard!
This episode of Wrought of Amber stars Renee Vito as Alex Carmichael and features Ashton Lorelle as Grace and Michaela Walsh as Emily Carmichael. Wrought of Amber is written and produced by JWG Wise. Each episode of Wrought of Amber is accompanied by a short story that helps to flesh out the larger narrative. You can find these for free at patreon.com/Weeping Cedars, where you can also become a patron to support the show. To discuss Wrought of Amber and other podcasts in the Weeping Cedars universe, including Weeping Cedars and Samite, please visit weepingcedars.com and click on the links for our Discord and our Reddit. This episode featured music supplied by Epidemic Sound, as well as the songs A004, Harry Fairy Hataruna, Rainbow Bomb, Invaders from Within, and Herb Pillhofer's Whirlpool, all by Monroeville Music Center. For full attribution and links, please see our show notes. This episode is copyright JWG Wise 2023.